Good morning. Our hand today is 8-9 of diamonds. This is a 2NL game. I normally don't play 2NL. I find the players are a lot more unpredictable in how they play. But on this night, there weren't really many games, and I wanted to get a session in, practice reading hands and so forth. So I went ahead and played at this 2NL game. So we're down to seven-handed. First in, I open raised 8-9. This is my early position raise first in stat. I think even with 7 players, I'd probably and at list limit, I'd probably include 2s, 3s, and 4s. However, at the higher limits, I think I would take those hands out. So that I'm slightly stronger. I get 2 calls, and Villain of Interest is this guy. This guy's playing, has a huge stack, monster stack. He's playing 32-11. He's playing 29-19 over 42 hands. Over these 42 hands, I don't really have much stats on him calling pre-flop. I think just in general, he's probably playing looser. So I set up a range like this. I do think most players are going to raise queens plus ace king, so I excluded those from his range. I think he's got pocket pairs. He's calling with some of these suited Broadway hands, some of these offsuit hands. Especially I added these because there's already a caller here, so he might be motivated to call a little bit wider. I mean, 15% isn't super wide, but I think it's facing a raise. I think this is probably appropriate, or at least we're going to go with it. It folds through the blinds, and then we see a flop of Jack 10, 4 with 2 spades. I check. I think this is a bad flop for the pre-flop raiser. I think we could do a little bit better just by checking and either letting it check through or check calling. I do think there's a possibility that we could check raise here, but I think with my hand, I don't think that's appropriate. I think with the check raise, we might be going something with like a queen spades, maybe like ace king, ace queen of spades. We'll check out, see what GTO says about that. Villain 1 bets. He bets about 2/3 pot. I think my hand has too many draws to fold, so I called here. Turn was a queen. I checked villain bet 13. Now I could raise, I could fold, or I could raise, I could call. I'm not folding. I raised here. I think any spade's probably going to be calling here. I think maybe king queen's going to call, king jack's going to call. I think king jack was an easy bet. I think even king queen's an easy bet. So I'm trying to get some money in the pot here. While I'm ahead, and knowing that, or suspecting that weaker hands are going to call. He does call. King of spades comes out. That's probably one of the worst hands. The spade, anyways, is probably one of the worst ones that could come out, because I think spades could call. I check. He bets 2/3 pot, and I just kind of close my eyes and call. I have the straight. Do I think he was calling with an ace here, like a lone ace? Maybe. Let's go back to the turn. Do I think he could be calling with like ace-x suited? Maybe, but I don't have a huge number of ace-x suited in his hands. He doesn't have ace-10 suited, ace-10 spades, so that's out. He might have ace-9, and then maybe ace-8 suited. But I don't think ace-8, ace-9 really bets. I think actually when they bet on the flop, we're looking at something more like ace-jack. A pair with a flush, or like king queen. So once the king comes, I said, okay, well, he doesn't have king queen of spades. He doesn't have ace queen of spades. I don't think he has ace. He could have. I guess he could have ace queen of spades. But I'm thinking this just looks like a 2-pair hand, possibly, or at least I think he could. Once that spade comes, he could be looking at getting it in. With 2-pair, or maybe even trips, because the board does look scary, and I just kind of check behind. And I think my check raise could have been like a queen jack hand. I called, and we see the showdown. So I wanted to see what does GTO suggest. I was curious about my check. I think my flop check is probably okay. And when we see it, my decision here, checking is 60%, betting's 40%. We've got 8-9 of diamonds. It does look like we're playing some mixed strategies here. About half the time we're betting, half we're checking. I think that's okay. I do think we have to consider that this is a three-way pot, and GTO's playing heads up here. I want to see what kind of hands are we betting here. We're betting sets we're betting, I guess, a wide range. All the way from no made hands all the way up to sets, including some of our draws. And we're checking the same thing, so we're just kind of mixing it up. We're not always betting our sets or two pair. We're not always checking our top pair, middle pair. That's kind of interesting for a GTO perspective. And I think we're going to probably have to modify what Villain might be doing. So if we lead out, what kind of hands is Villain going to bet and raise? So he should be raising some of our sets. He should be calling some of our two pairs. Top pairs probably calling, middle pairs calling. He's not really raising a whole lot, so I think that's probably okay. If we check what kind of hands is he betting, he's betting, quite a few. So I think we're going to go with the check. So let's see what GTO looks like, because I think it's going to be hard to put this opponent on some of his ranges. I'm gonna check out what his bet is. Let's see here. Two bet. Bet 2 out of 9. His C bet's 1 out of 3. So, all right. So we check. Villain bets. We're gonna say he's playing GTO now, and then what do we do? We got 8-9 of diamonds. It does look like we are calling. We could also raise this, so I think I'm okay with how we play so far. Then we get a queen of clubs, and I think this is kind of interesting. So now we should be betting leading out here 63% of the time, and it looks like we should almost always be leading out with that 9-8. Before we get to the call, what was the check raises? Did we have check raises? We had some. We're mixing it up. Ace king with the ace of spades, or the king of spades. Jacks, trip 10s, two pair. Okay, I can see that. We're checking some of those big hands for the check raise here, and that's going to help offset some of our bluffs where we have that spade blocker. Okay, that's interesting. So now we've got a very small percentage of that 9-8. So I think I probably should have bet out here, and I think that's a weakness that I have. I don't bet on these turns enough. I don't donk bet into these turns. So I check. Villain bets. Yeah, he bets like 13. Okay, so we're still good. He bets 13. What is he betting with? He's betting with some of his good hands. Heavier in straights and three of a kinds, definitely. His checks are going to be heavier in top pair, middle pair, weak pair. His bet's going to be flush draws, more flush draws than when he checks. Open enders are about even. Gut shots, more gut shots when he checks versus when he bets. So when he bets again, Nine eight doesn't have a raise here. It looks like we are raising with queens, with trip queens. The times we don't bet, and with 8-7. So if I bet and then he's calling a bunch of those king spades and we're getting off. And at this point you can see that my call is just I guess it's better to see what am I folding. We're folding some of the aces. Oh man, we're folding trips. Trip kings, trip queens. Yeah, okay, so I think it's clear that some of my GTO play is not not very good. I think I'm okay with the check here, the check call. I think that works, but then I think here, once we hit our straight, we really need to be betting here. If we bet and villain call, if we bet, let's start say, if we bet and villain raises us, what do? Then we just kind of shove with 8-9. Okay, so we're being aggressive here. I mean, ace king, I don't think he has ace king in his range. I think he would have 3-bet. If he shows up with it, he shows up with it. We make a note that he didn't 3-bet with ace king. He didn't 3-bet an early position player with ace king. But I think it's too much to worry about. So he raises, and then he's going to be calling with some of the straights, 3 of a kind. I think he's probably going to be calling with a lot weaker hands. Now, is he going to be folding? He's folding 27%. Are we worried about losing EV? So if we just, if he raises, we bet he raises. If we just call, can we get it all in on the turn and have him call? Probably not. I think he's probably calling just with the flush versus if we raise, he's calling with straights. 3 of a kind. So we should have bet, and then if he raises, just kind of get it all in with our straight. Okay, we gotta work on that. What if he just calls? If he just calls, then we are checking 75%. We took our stab. I think that king of spades was horrible. Let's change this. Let's say it was a 2 of spades. We're still mostly checking. What if it's a 2 of diamonds? We're still mostly checking. What if it's a king of hearts? Now we're betting our king of hearts. Not really. We're betting king of diamonds. Ooh, 10s put up a boat. 5 of hearts. Mostly check. About 50-50. Mostly check here. Mostly check. Mostly check. So it looks like the times where we lean more towards betting is going to be when that king comes. What about the ace? I think the king. I guess it's going to be more likely that he has the king and would call a bet. So like king queen, I think plays this way where he bets when check 2. He just calls. Top pair, open ender, straight draw. And then I think king calls on the river bet. So I think that kind of makes sense. However, the king of spades puts up that spade flush out there. So now we need to be much more careful with our play. So it looks like we are now going to be checking most of the time. We are checking minus our spades. So we check, and if he bets, then I'm going to guess we call. We actually fold our straight draw. I guess that is assuming that most of his straights are going to be flushes, flushes with some straights tossed in. So yeah, he's going to have more flushes in his range, so we can get away from 8-9. All right. So let's see what he actually had at showdown. He had jack 8. Was that even in his range? I did not have that in his range. Jack 8. So I think we might have to expand, and I think that is going to change how we view this hand. So if he's playing jack 8 like that, he's probably also playing a fairly wide range. Well, we'll say he 3-bets ace queen. Is there any evidence of that? No. All right, so we're gonna have to build the tree. And then I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back based on that range. And I think when we looked at his bet, he was definitely going to be betting his flush draws. So we'll check it out. So I'm gonna run the solver, and we'll be back when it's done. All right, villain's done. It's done running. So at this point, we're still kind of playing a mixed strategy here. Half check, half bet. We check. Villain's going to be betting. His flush draws. Not surprising. We do call again, so our check raising range is still like jacks, tens, jack tens. We have some of our check raising with ace king, ace queen if we have spades. So we call, and then I think this was the queen of clubs comes out, and it still has us betting most of the time, especially with our 9/8. So it looks like we are betting. We're not betting middle pair, but we're leading out with top pair with the kings. So ace queen, ace king, we're betting our over pairs at this point. 2 pair, we're betting. 3 of a kind, betting. Straights, we're betting. So we need to be aggressive again. If we bet and he raises, we are looking to get it in with our straight. We're looking to get it in with kings, ace, yeah, with our straights, ace king, with our trip kings. More so with like the diamond and heart, because it makes it more likely the villain's going to be doing this with the clubs and the spades. That makes sense. Nines, some of our nines, mostly folding nines. So we're going to do that. If we check and villain bets, it looks like we are calling with like 8-9 here. We're calling with weaker cards. We do have some straights that we are calling with. That's the 8-9s. Some of our kings, I mean, very small percentage of the kings that we have in there. So we do call, and then yeah, once we check call, then we're checking basically all of this. Now villain's going to be betting a wide range, and we're going to likely just give up our low end of the straight. So we shouldn't have check raised. We should have really let out on that turn. I think that's better than check raising. I think check raising is so strong that it really excludes a lot of the weaker hands that villain would have initially raised us had we let out the turn. All right, so hopefully if you enjoy this, you look tomorrow for another hand.